Good afternoon. Uh, Good day. Peace. This is my first YouTube live stream. I am Khalil Abdul Hakim, and I want to speak in regards to a few subjects that I think we should all be conscious and aware of in regards to the present economic and financial situations and the uncertainty of the changing times, because it's very critical that we prepare and protect ourselves in a very significant manner. Um, I always speak in regards to the topic of financial, spiritual, physical, psychological, chemical warfare. With that as the foundation, we want to proceed forward with a clear understanding of strategies to use to protect ourselves. In this particular instance, I want to speak a little bit about uh, how we protect our families and our wealth and assets in a hostile environment with rising inflation rates and very uncertain um, issues that confront us in regards to this pandemic with high levels of unemployment. Now, we are presently, and this is my first, so I'm looking to see. It doesn't appear as if anyone has uh, came on board yet. So uh, perhaps I should wait a few more minutes to see if I'm going to get an audience. Um, I would imagine that what I'm saying here probably, I don't know if it can be repeated or added on to my other videos. And by the way, while I'm at it, I might as well mention some things that you can uh, or links that you can plug in for other information on Seven Kings metals. So we also have another website, um, which is regards to some of my literature, and uh, that would be Beyond Motivation dot one, not the numerical one, but the letter one. Um, Also, you can type my name in probably as King Kiddo Speaks and go to another YouTube channel besides King's Metals and see some videos where I'm doing spoken word, and also with Beyond Motivation dot one, you can also see my book that's on Amazon and also order from the site. And the book is entitled From Darkness into Light and Other Transformations. And in that sense, the book speaks to uh, my autobiography or my history of traveling in the world of darkness, of drugs, incarceration, and basically, uh, basically, my resurrection. And of course, I had several situations of, um, I would say, the death of aspects of my previous self, because we must die sometimes in order to live. and we have to die in false ideas and false concepts and perceptions about who we are. And many times those perceptions are given to us by the environment or society, or a lack of proper support or nurturing as young people, or in regards to our developmental years. And before we reach the age of discretion and the age of discrimination. So those early developmental years, things are imprinted into our subconscious mind. And emotional trauma makes the imprint even more intense in regards to having a lasting effect on the subconscious mind and the programs that it operates from. A lot of times we think that our conscious mind and our awareness of our thoughts control our behaviors. And that is totally far from the reality, because the subconscious mind is hundreds of thousands of times stronger than the conscious mind and operates 24/7. And even in regards to the autonomic system that makes your heart beat in the subatomic, well, not so much subatomic, but the cellular level in the regards to um, reproduction and the death of cells and germs and viruses and the autoimmune systems. All these things are operating in a subconscious or an unconscious way, because, of course, it's too complex and complicated for us to even imagine that we could operate all these things in our consciousness. And then, of course, we must also sleep. But again, it looks like I still have no visitors, and I don't know if I'm doing anything perhaps incorrect. So I'll speak for a few more minutes, and if I don't see anyone, oh, maybe I should have invited people. Okay, it says say something. I don't know. Slow mode is on. Okay, that's something. That's something else. There, welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy. And okay, slow mode is on. Top chat. I'm not sure if I'm doing everything right here. Send feedback, in stream, edit. Okay. All right. So maybe this is not me interacting right now. Maybe this is me creating a video. Okay, I get it. I could, bear with me. All right. So let's in the possibilities that this is just me creating a video. All right. So I'm gonna operate from that uh, uh, assumption, so to speak. All right, so let me get down to it. First of all, the topic that I was going to speak about today um, is the seriousness of the economic situation that we're in. When we go to the supermarket, we all obviously can sense something's not right, something's wrong. So they talk about the um, the large quantity of people who have lost their jobs and are struggling economically and financially. So I put together a couple of strategies for um, protecting ourselves, and I wanted to share some of those strategies that I'm utilizing with uh, the population in general, and people who I know, and other people who uh, can sense that there's something uh, seriously amiss, something seriously troubling. And a lot of us sense this intuitively. And we also sense it, I mean, it's the reality in real time when we go to the store and we see that we're able to buy less and less. And we know that there's a lot of things that are not available. So we know that there is a supply lines problem. We also know, and we have the information that there is a food shortage problem worldwide. And personally, I know that we have the technology to make sure that these things uh, are corrected. Now, in regards to the supply line, the food shortages, this all fits into what we call the economic reset because the dollar is crashing. So we can trace the history of the dollar, and I will reference the secrets of money. Uh, and the secrets of money, you know, is what you might say hidden right in front of our faces. The Federal Reserve. A lot of people may or may not know that it's not a federal institution. It's a private corporation owned by a very small percentage of the population that we refer to as the 1% or the rich and the super, super rich. And if we go all the way back to the Rothschilds, we'll see a pattern with the banking systems. Um, and we'll see the transition from a trade economy to a uh, money economy. And in regards to speaking to money, we've historically we've always known um, that money is been for over 5,000 years uh, most commonly considered gold and silver. And as long as we were in this uh, precious metals that held intrinsic value, uh, we didn't have deficits, we didn't have inflation. And the beginning of the, uh, we could go back to 1913 when the Federal Reserve first, uh, the European banking system first tried to get themselves situated in the United States, and it was unsuccessful. But more specifically, let's go back to around 1933 when uh, they made gold uh, illegal to possess, and therefore the dollar bill was selected as the reserve currency under the Brent, what was that, the Bretton Woods Act. Now, that was okay because the money or the dollar bills were attached to the gold standard, and the dollar bills were called gold or silver certificates, and they could be exchanged for real gold. So from 1933 until 1971, the Bretton Woods Act was in place. And then Nixon in 1971 removed the gold from the attachment to the dollar bill, and that's when we get what they call fiat currency. Now, fiat currency means that we're operating merely from the fact that our government promises us that this paper is of value. And as long as we have confidence in that promise, then the economy uh, can possibly still operate, but I don't believe able to operate in in the manner which is optimal for uh, growth and um, real wealth in regards to, well, we won't, I don't want to get too far into economics, but I just want to show that there's a pattern in the historical cycle. Our currency, which is fiat currency, historically is the longing lasting fiat currency, and all the other fiat currency before the dollar bill have always returned back to zero value. So now our dollar bill is has the purchasing power from its original worth to about less than 1% of its original purchasing power. That's why you see things going up, prices going up. So much, not the prices are really going up, but the dollar bill is buying less and less and less. So what kept the dollar bill afloat was the petrodollar. Now, when they say petrodollar, what they're referring to is that the dollar bill was pegged to your ability to buy oil from the OPEC countries, and more specifically, the agreements and treaties between the United States and uh, especially Saudi Arabia. So, um, those are political agreements, for their safety and protection. That's why we're referred to as the military-industrial complex, and it's only because of our military. Um, in the historically speaking, our military power that has kept us in the position of dominance and even in the financial economic sense. So we've been able to pretty much uh, be the reserve currency of the world. Um, but now this military industrial complex is also what we call a military industrial Hollywood complex. So because that's the psychological warfare. So we have the military, we have the world military dominance as a threat. And remember, as Machiavelli said, that it's better to be feared than loved. So the world, a lot of people in the world hate the United States, but they fear the United States. And right now, with the pandemic and everything, our people are being ruled by fear. Fear is false information or evidence about reality. And so Hollywood helps to promote this false reality. And consequently, we find our identity in the programming. And that's why TV is called a program. And when you get the thing, it says you can look at the program. Well, each program has a plan in which to affect us. And unfortunately, many of us, instead of developing our minds in a what we call critical thinking mode, we sit and allow hypnotic forces and subliminal forces and subconscious forces, even to the degree that the power of suggestion. And you may not know it because it's called subliminal seduction, as well as neurolinguistic programming. So we're sitting constantly being programmed neurolinguistically as well as hypnotically and by way of power of suggestion. And these suggestions are very subtle and they get past our defense mechanisms and past our critical thinking because we're relaxed when we're watching TV. We're relaxed when we're listening to music. We're relaxed when we're watching movies in the movie theaters. And we can tell that we're in a trance because many times if you leave the movie theater, you may have went in the movie theater and it was the daytime and you come out and it's nighttime, you say, wow, where did all the time go? Or you're driving down the road and you could be in a trance, listening to your radio, and all of a sudden, wow, you realize that you already went 10 miles, but it felt like you only drove a mile. Or the opposite. It felt like you were driving forever and you should have been at your destination because time is relative according to our perception. And our perception and information is the new money of today. And that's why they don't like blockchain. Because blockchain is decentralized. Cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is decentralized. They want to bring us back into a digital economy where they have control of all the information, including your information and everything that you do in tracking. And that's what they call Data aggregation. Data aggregation is collecting the information, and then that leads us into what they call demographics. Demographics, now they know the age, whether it's children, married, race, sex, what you buy, what you purchase, everything will be available, and they can predict your behavior because people are creatures of habit and they operate from patterns. And um, because of that, uh, they know that what you've done in the past has a high probability of being repeated in the future, which takes us to another um, um, piece of information that you could Google. You could Google it's a quiet war with silent weapons. It's a PDF. Uh, Even if you say it wrong or say quiet weapons with a silent war, either way, it'll come up. And you can DM me or send me any kind of information. And by the way, you can also communicate with me in Seven Kings Metals, YouTube, or Khalil Abdul Hakim on YouTube under Khalil Abdul Hakim Speaks, which I share some of my literary. And we we're in a time of the season now. We're getting cold. Now it's getting cold. Okay, so now the seasons are changing, like the seasons of our lives. But we speak of these seasons and we speak of the weather in like metaphorical ways. Like the wind is blowing, it's chill. Well, that's how we feel sometimes about people. Or it's a warm day and it's the breeze is hot. That's and the wind blowing normally speaks about a lot of emotional turmoil, and that leads me or the segue that allows me to segue into another topic that I'm going to speak about, which is dealing with the financial money matter and the secrets of the money, which was in the movie. Uh, um, in the interpretation of the movie, The Wizard of Oz, which metaphorically and symbolically was speaking about the change of gold and silver um, and our power that we had when wealth was measured by gold and silver in the gold and silver standards. And in 1933, when they made gold illegal, um, the movie came out, The Wizard of Oz. Now, The Wizard of Oz is very interesting because Dorothy, she was caught up in a tornado. And I just said metaphorically, like, the weather. So the tornado was like our economic turmoil that we're existing in with these uncertain unpredictabilities of wear a mask, don't wear a mask, take this, take that, uh, you can go to this and you can't go here. You have to qualify for this, qualify. This is mandated. This is now it's not. The courts have ruled it's not, and we're going back and forth. And this keeps us in what they call cognitive dissonance, which means the things that this is the new norm. The things that we normally can find predictability. We like predictability in our lives because we're creatures of habit, and because of that, we like to know that things are pretty constant, and we can handle some some changes more successfully and better equipped to handle than if things keep constantly changing, and then we go into a state of stress because of the unknown or anxiety. Because now we're wondering, am I going to have my job? What's secure? Because when you get under economic pressure, it's one of the number one reasons why relationships fail because of discussions and fights and arguments about income, money, and struggling to pay bills and things of that nature, and a dissatisfaction, in general about your life situation. So back to the Wizard of Oz. So Dorothy gets caught up in the storm, and uh, she wants to return to Kansas. Okay, Kansas was considered to be the middle of America, so we're talking about America in this metaphor. The storm is the turbulent financial times that was the Great Depression in 1930 or 1929 and thereabouts. So, and then taking off of the gold standard. And when Dorothy goes into the movie, she comes across a guy called the Wizard, the medicine man. He's the wizard, and she had Toto with her. And Toto, and so Dorothy's representing uh, the public trying to find its way back to a sound and grounded uh, reality, and she's seeking information and knowledge through the wizard, and the wizard, uh, you know, gives her some information and direction. So she gets on the yellow brick road. The yellow brick road is symbolic of gold. Now, Dorothy on the yellow brick road, her original slippers were silver. But when they made the movie, they turned them red. Red is representative of blood, that she was a living human being. Because remember now, she had three entities who she met along the road. It was the Tin Man, uh, the Scarecrow or Straw Man, and or Dummy, and the Lion, and each one of them had an attribute. Uh, the Tin Man, as you know, metal and tin, and he carried an axe. And why did he carry an axe? And when she oiled him, which is another symbolism, because remember, we used to anoint ourselves with oil for purification and cleanliness. We used to oil and then scrape off the oil, and the dirt would come off because we didn't have water in the desert. Therefore, but oil is symbolic of uh, quite a few different things. But the Tin Man, he was symbolic of the tax identification number, and he carried the axe because when he was tin, and he was cold. Um, he was calculating in a sense. Now the scarecrow, he was symbolic of a few things as well. More specifically, what we might refer to today as dummy corporation, the straw man. The straw man is looked at in a bunch of different ways. And when your name is used in all capital letters, that's referred to as your straw man or your trademark because it's in your driver's license, it's in your social securities, and in your your bank accounts and everything. They'll use a capital your name in all caps because that's a trademark. And we won't go too far into your live birth certificate and then your certificate of birth. And that takes us into a security because it's converted into securities, and that takes us and it's monetized. So that's why they weigh you at birth, because your birth certificate, your live certificate of live birth, that determines how many your weight. They say you're worth your weight in gold. So that gives you your first value. 6 pounds or 9 pounds is worth a little bit more than 6 pounds. So nevertheless, so the straw man, the dummy. This is corporate America is operating from a lot of dummy corporations. The stimulus money right now is being funneled not to. We're looking at trillions of dollars, but the stimulus that we received was crumbs because the trillions of dollars went to the corporations. That's how the economy is being kept afloat right now. It's called quantitative easing. And again, we get back to the fact that we have to pay this worthless paper back to something of value. Now, um, with every one of these situations under this present system, we are going into less and less uh, freedoms. Every time we look around, our freedom is being taken from us. So how do you protect yourself? So let me get back to the Wizard of Oz. So Dorothy, she had on uh, silver slippers walking the yellow brick road. So that means that our silver certificates and our gold certificates, we want to get back and go back to the origin. So she had to find the Wizard of Oz. Along the way, the evil or the bad witch, she made sure that she walked past the poppy field, which we know represents opium and drugs, and that's why we were at war in Afghanistan. And we go back to um, I forget the name of the movie, but or the documentary dealing with all of the drugs that came through um, out of the Vietnam War and came through the Cambodia and all of the heroin trail. But then we had the Mexican heroin. But more specifically, let's just look at why we were really fighting in Afghanistan and how all this the opiates. So she went to sleep. As many. So now when we're dealing with a pandemic, we need to go back to the epidemic. Who is really dying? It's an epidemic. And it's been in the melanated community as long as, and I'm a victim myself. I've got 20 years of recovery. But part of my literary From Darkness into Light is traveling that journey. I traveled from being addicted to heroin at the age of 14 and being incarcerated for years and years because uh, those uh, those be antisocial behaviors. We could look back at systemic, unfair, and unjust criminal codes being, and that's another thing we'll talk about as well, codes. So that's another issue. Now, I remember when I got sentenced, it was a Caucasian right in front of me. He got 6 years and I got 20. And we was both there for bank robbery. So I sat in there, watched him get sentenced, and I said, "Oh, okay, that's not too bad." And then I went up in front of the judge, the same judge, and he gave me 20 years. And the Third Circuit Court of Appeal said that he had to bring me back and reconsider me because of my age. I think I was 18 or 19. So, nevertheless, um, you know, we go from the education to the prison industrial complex, and we also our criminal convictions are commercial codes. You can look up 277211 CFR. All crimes are commercial. That's why you have to pay a fine. You have to pay for your crime, and you're put into an institution, and then they count you all 3 or 4 times a day because your inventory, and they have to keep track of the inventory because there are actually on the look up prisoners and their bonds. You could Google it, and we're sold um, in the security exchange. We're sold, you know, in the stock market, and there's a lot of famous people that know that and have bought into the prison stock, private prison stock. So we're commercial. All crimes are commercial, uh, and we're ruled also by contracts. And there's a book by George Mercer called Invisible Contracts, and I recommend it, as one of the references that we look at. And I'm trying to think of my main man's name. He wrote The Secrets of Money. Just go on YouTube and type in The Secrets of Money, and he'll pop up as well. But there's another author that I'm sort of not just one, but different sources where I began to understand, the relationship of all of the various levels of warfare that is happening and the symbolism, um, because we get back to this: there's the public, the private, and the hidden. And so uh, the public is how they do the public with fear, and they turn us from people into sheeple because we're scared. The big bad wolf. All these fairy tales are symbolic. I huff and I puff and I blow your house down unless you build a secure house, which is going to be based on gold and silver, but financial house. But let's go back to the Wizard of Oz. So Dorothy's traveling down the road and she falls asleep in the poppy field. And I think it's the good witch. She comes and snow falls on her. So now we get to the other uh, thing that drives the economy: opiates and cocaine. That's the underground economy. I just said public, private, and hidden. What really keeps a lot of economies going is the drugs and the petrodollars, the underground economy. So there's the economy you see, the inside trading that's happening that you don't see, the private, between the rich and the wealthy. They know when to buy the stocks. It's a game, as Dick Gregory used to say. It's a game. And not only is it a game, but it's rigged against us because we have none of this information. How many people are buying cryptocurrency have no idea what cryptocurrency is, what a blockchain is, what a Bitcoin is, what decentralization and what a wallet is. Uh, and I know I lost $16,000 on one platform that was there one day, and the next day I went, it was gone. I went to we went to the Interpol, and they said, "Huh, it's unregulated. We have nothing to do with it." So I'm saying that to say why I choose gold or silver, which is a tangible asset, over intangibles for several reasons. And I do deviate somewhat here, and I'll get right back to the Wizard of Oz. But the gold and the silver is selected because it's a tangible, it has intrinsic value, and it's fungible, meaning that it is the same everywhere. Also, it's easy to replicate and duplicate because we can make the gold and silver into the same thing. Where now uh, a lot of people feel safe with Bitcoin, and it is a good investment. You can make a lot of money, but that's why you have to diversify. So you have a little maybe cryptocurrency that creates money, and then my strategy would be to take it out immediately, buy something of substance or tangible like real estate, gold, silver, and still continue to operate what you can afford uh, in the crypto market. But continuously siphon off your profits and buy tangible things that will protect you, because gold and silver brings you outside of the banking system, because the banking system is finished, it's crashing, it's just being held up through this quantitative easing, which is the printing of money. And no one wants American bonds anymore. And so we have this thing, and that's why I refer you to The Secrets of Money to watch. Uh, uh, Let me tell her I have to call her right back. Okay. All right. So, um, okay. So, the uh, the cryptocurrency uh, is the IRS is. Excuse me one second. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, I'm doing a video right now. Okay. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Apologize. All right. So the cryptocurrency, they're looking to do regulation all the way from the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund. They want to regulate, and whereas you can still, they won't be able to stop it because it's too vast. The blockchains and the Bitcoin and all this stuff is decentralized, and that's what they hate because they can't control it. However, if they create these regulations in this capacity to tax ungained or undisclosed capital gains, it's going to be a criminal offense if you don't disclose your profits from your bitcoins, and that will be another thing that. And this also the fluctuation of the crypto market is very extreme. Like you can gain this money and lose money the next day. But if they, and I think they were just unable to pass this one where they wanted to tax your bitcoins even before you declared a profit. So that's another issue. But the reason that I prefer gold and silver is because of its constant over 5,000 year history of being the foundation of all wealth as we know it. And they also refer to it as God's money. Now, back to the Wizard of Oz, and so the snow brought her back. Now, United States, all the way back to as far as we can trace it, all of its wars and everything, and even during the Vietnam War, all these coffins was coming back filled with heroin. The CIA operates from black op funds. Black op funds means the drug trade. When you watch the movie The Godfather, um, he and for Godfather 3, he went to the Vatican. The Vatican Bank to legalize himself and his money and his assets. And unfortunately, he lost the thing that he loved more than ever anything else in the world, which was his daughter. In the process of, that movie showed the just like the 48 Laws of Power, all those people that sought power, uh, nobody ended up well. Most of them, they lived by power and they died by power, lived by the sword and died by the sword. So we got to get to what we refer to spiritual warfare. That's another concept and idea that we live by principles and values as best we can because of us being imperfect in all our ways. And we want to avoid being double-minded because the double-minded man is not lost, but oh my goodness, in all of his ways. The double-minded man is not only unpredictable, but unable to operate by principles and integrity and consistency. And he wears multiple masks. And, that's a whole nother issue. So when Dorothy gets the scarecrow, gets the lion has no heart. He's a coward. And that is when we return to who we are and have our sovereignty and our rightful mindset and our rightful heart and our rightful integrity and principles and values. When we get back into functionality, sustainability, and adaptability, because most of us, like myself, I came up in a dysfunctional household where, unfortunately, my mother, she was an alcoholic, and I vowed that I wouldn't be an alcoholic. So I ended up being a drug addict, which, of course, in my undeveloped mind, I thought that was an advancement. But in reality, I came to learn and understand that it was just a way for me to cope with my pain. And the pain, that comes out of an environment that is not nurturing, not because people are bad, but because, if you look at people who abuse people, you could go back to their childhood and they were abused, So if you look at some of the people that right now are mentally unstable, and you look back and you might find out that they was a crack baby. So even while they were in the embryonic stage, they had chemicals going through them that they came out undeveloped mentally and physically and spiritually, and they may not ever be stable. And a lot of times, though, people find themselves in becoming strongly entrenched in their faith, and because they just follow this strict faith, and we look at them and say, "Oh man, that guy, he's full of religion and dogma," but that might be the only thing that keeps him safe from himself and keeps him anchored. This dogma, this rigidity, and he may be one-dimensional, but he goes to work every day and he does what he has to do. But we don't know until you walk into another man's shoes. But back to the Wizard of Oz. So she's walking the yellow brick road. So let's just jump ahead right to the end. And in the end, Toto the dog, which represents loyalty and obedience, goes up and pulls the curtain on the wizard. And the wizard ends up being this little wee small guy. Well, let's look. Aren't the rulers of this world and society, they're a small percentage. They could never rule over us without our permission. That's what leads us into contract law. We're in contracts all our lives every day. And you have to understand the elements of a contract. There's an offer, an acceptance, a consideration. Now, a lot of times you may not even know the contract because it's invisible. And I often use the case in point that when you're in a courtroom, the bailiff says, "Will the defendant please stand up?" Whether it's for sentencing, because there's three aspects of trial: pre-trial, trial, and post-trial. Now, in the very pre-trial, they need to get you to confess your name. So they say, "Will the defendant please stand up?" Now, that's an offer. Your lawyer urges you to stand up. So when you stand up, you volunteer. That's an acceptance. You don't see the contract, but the judge and the whole courtroom knows that this is a law of admiralty, and these are commercial contracts because you have to also sign sign everything, and that's what they really need, that signature, which is your intangible asset, because nothing can move forward without your knowing in your signature. So they say, "Well, the defendants, please stand up," and you stand up, and then they say, "Tell us for the record your name." So you tell them and you identify yourself. We won't go into too much more deeper, but as soon as you give them your name, you become the defendant because you have a confessed judgment right from the beginning, because the defendant is always guilty. There's two aspects when you study debtor credit law. You're the debtor. We live in a debt economy. When you come out of college, you are a debtor because you owe all those loans. So you're already in debt slavery, debt prison, a debtor's prison, which is really outlawed, but debtor creditor. The creditor always wins, and the debtor, always loses. Uh, so the defendant is the debtor, and the prosecution is the creditor. So, or the plaintiff is the creditor, and the defendant is the debtor. So what you learn is that what you have to do when you understand, it's called legal jujitsu. You have to file a counterclaim because they're making a claim against your estate, but you have to file a counterclaim and come back in as the counterclaim plaintiff. Because if you stay the defendant, you're going to lose. So you have to make a counterclaim to their claim because they're claiming parts of your estate. We won't get too far into that. But so you confess by standing up, and then they ask you for your name for the record, so that they can have you confessing to the record and getting a confessed judgment. So you've already lost, but they'll still do the dog and pony show, the smoke and mirror show to make it look like, but they've already made a decision because you've done a confessed judgment. But nevertheless, get back to Toto. He pulls the curtain on the wizard. And you look in there, and lo and behold, the wizard is just got all this machinery, the military industrial Hollywood complex, that he's tricked you with, that he's made the illusion to give you the delusion, the delusional self that if you have a big booty, that makes you, that's an asset. If you have these enhancements, if you have money, if you have cars, if you have the latest clothes, all these, he's running the machinery. It's not too much more different than the Matrix. That's another metaphorical story, the Matrix, that needs to be decoded. Remember I said the word code earlier? Well, everything is operated under code. There's legal code, commercial code, bankruptcy code, criminal code. And what does code mean? Code means hidden. That's why I say public, private, and hidden. You'll never understand the tax code. You're not meant to understand it. You have to go get a tax attorney. Now, if you did the same thing that the tax attorney did, and you tried to do it, you would be tax evasion, where tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is legal, and he knows how to do it. But when you do it, it's tax evasion, which is illegal. It's the same thing, except the rich can afford the lawyer and you can't. So they don't pay no taxes. So now you have to understand trust law. And in God we trust. How can we trust the God of the dollar bill when it's hidden symbols? So we're back to the public, the private, and hidden. So those symbols on the dollar tells you a whole different metaphorical story. So the wizard Toto, your obedient, trusting dog, pulls the curtain or the veil of ignorance, the veils of darkness that we've been shrouded in all of our lives. We come into this consciousness, this awareness, and this is what I hope that this channel will convey to you. And I want to get to, I don't know if this is my first stream. I'm going to end it here because I see I've been going for 50 minutes and time does fly, especially when you're a guy like me that talks and talks and talks. You know, but I hope that I've given some information and, you know, that will be a benefit to stimulate thought, you see, because this is, we want to think and reflect and ponder some of the things in our reality because we're in a critical time. So the next conversation, I want to talk a little bit more about gold and silver and how we can possibly protect ourselves and our families, not just in this critical time, but for generational wealth and how we build generational wealth. Now, there's a lot of other people out there that have excellent information, and I would like to network with them. And there's no doubt, you know, we have to operate with a team of us working together. And I will show you and give you the information I have on the little bit of wealth that I've accumulated. Whether you want to understand real estate, I will put together uh, a Zoom calls. Enough people have some interest in how to do lease option purchases, how to convert to Airbnbs, or how to do wholesaling. I'm not an expert in all those areas, but you know, like a lawyer don't know all that law, but he knows how to go to the law library and do research. And he doesn't even do the research. He has a law clerk or a paralegal to do it for him. He just does the theatrics of the courtroom because he's licensed by the bar, which is the British accreditation registry. And that's another thing. Our law is copyrighted in Europe. That's Black's Law Dictionary. All of our books, our law books, come from Europe. So we're still in the British law. A lot of people, the public, the private, and the hidden. So the Bar Association is a private, uh, a private. Well, for lack of a better word, we just say a private club. Okay, and it don't matter how much law you know, you could know way more than your lawyer or anybody else, but you can't go into the bar because you're barred from the bar. You can't cross the bar. You know, we won't just get into that. So I want to end this right now because I don't know if I did this right, but I don't see that anyone has. For all I know, I could have done all this talking and just talking to myself. I don't know if this is being recorded because you know, I don't know how to do that. But nevertheless, maybe I'll find that out in the end. But I'm going to end for now, and I invite you to my YouTube channel, Seven Kings Metal, where I have some other videos, and I also invite you to King Khalil Speaks, which is my literary channel. And you can find it in the description of if you go to the description of Seven Kings Medals on YouTube, and you go up to the top in the right where the channel. If you go to the channel and you see my picture, you tap on my picture, you go to the channel, and at the channel at the top you go to the about, and when you go into about, it gives you a description as well of 6 other websites that I operate from. One is Business Builder, one is uh, Seven Kings Medals, which you know, and other one is an affiliate marketing academy that shows you how to put together an affiliate marketing system that will allow you to operate. Even if you lose your job, you will still be able to just have your computer or cell phone and operate on the internet with your own websites and domains. And so forth. So you know you can check those things out, and please subscribe to King Khalil, King Seven Kings, uh, Seven Kings Medals, and subscribe to King Khalil Speaks. Um, and I hope to see you on the next YouTube live conversation, and I would like to get into a question and answer period. So, with that being said, I bid everyone a good evening, and may God bless us all. and protect us from the onslaught of the insanity of the things we find happening in the world today. All right, be safe and peace.